Hey, this is Jeff here from eBay Addicts, and today my special guest is Steve from Resale Dojo. Man, how are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good, man. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell people where you're from and what you do, man.
Cool. Yeah. I'm living currently in Phoenix right now. I've been here for the last 7 years. I was born and raised in Chicago, or just right outside of Chicago. Most Chicagoans kind of take exception if you say you're from Chicago. If you're from the suburbs, you're not truly in the city limits. But I moved to Phoenix for work, and then about almost 2 years now, I lost my job from my corporate job. They had some downsizing there. And while I was looking for new jobs, I came across reselling just as like a hobby while I was searching out new jobs. And after a few months of doing that, while I was looking, I'm like, I really like doing this a lot more than looking for a new job. And I decided to make that my full-time job.
Okay, awesome. So first I wanted to say hi to my man BK from the Rockies. He says like, share, subscribe, and comment. And he says leave questions. So I appreciate you for stopping by, BK. So Steve is from Phoenix, correct? And
Yep.
so you're a full-time reseller. And tell people, because I watched your video the other day, tell the people how much you made last year for 2020, your gross numbers. Tell them how much you made in sales.
Yeah, gross. I think the final number is around 78,000 on eBay. That's where I'm primarily selling. I do some local deals, very few Amazon. Amazon's really where I want to grow next year on there as well. Did a Mercari sale just like last week because I had some Vero items that I couldn't sell on eBay, so I put on Mercari and they started to move. So 78,000 on eBay, which is primarily where I'm focused right now.
So you're basically right around 80,000. Most people don't make 80,000 working a full-time job. So you know, if you're able to do that and work less hours, you're going to spend more time with your family, and you get to kind of make up your own work schedule. So talk a little bit about your backstory, because you moved there to Phoenix, right, in order for a job, and tell people kind of like your backstory as far as where were you doing in the corporate world, like before you became a full-time reseller, and talk about your transition from being a full-time employee to being full-time self-employed. Tell people how that happened.
Yeah. I was in corporate ever since I got out of college. So at 21, I basically went into the corporate workforce. I worked for about 12 years with one of the largest truck manufacturers in the US. And there I started from the bottom. I did sales support, customer service, eventually project management, product management, and then strategic pricing. So I saw the full gamut of how to buy and sell items to different distributions and distribution models. After that, I took a job, which is the one that I moved to Phoenix for, and it was for being a product manager in the software space. So I did software software as a service, which was just us developing software that we'd sell to business clients when it came to it. So it was a nice change of pace there. I did that for 6 years, but eventually they had to downsize just with the company of how it was, the growth wasn't there for the company. And then that led me to reselling.
Okay, so the company basically said that they were downsizing, and so were you already doing kind of reselling part-time on the side when you got laid off, or what was the game plan with that?
Yeah, I had bought and sold on eBay. It had been a while since I had been doing it. I was doing it mainly for hobby, sports cards, probably around 2000 to 2013. I would do it. I had like 1,000 feedback just from buying and selling, just for hobby at that point. And while I was, even before I got laid off, I was watching like CJR. I'm not sure if you know who he is. He's a big Canadian garage sailor and retro video game collector. That's another hobby of mine is video games. And I was watching him do all like the spy camera videos of him buying and selling at garage sales. And then some he would keep and some he would flip to pay for his collection. And so I watched him. I ran into like Chase, Rally Roots, like all those. It just led me down a rabbit hole. And so when I did get laid off, I already was like, I have something I could do for fun on the side, and also make a little bit of money while I was looking for a new job. And so I already had like kind of that little inkling of like, I could do this if I really wanted to, but I hadn't started yet until that moment of being laid off.
Okay, cool, man. So talk a little bit about what your experience is, because you're self-employed now. You're a full-time reseller. That's where you make most of your income right now, is from being a full-time reseller. So kind of talk about how it is, because I feel like one of the things that people struggle with in their self-employed is maybe they're just not, I don't know if not motivated isn't the word, but maybe they don't have a structured schedule. Like, hey, I'll wake up at this time, I'll punch a time clock at this time, I'll go home at this time. And when you're working from home, kind of talk about how that has been for you, what your daily routine is, and how you were able to adjust from being a full-time employee to basically working for yourself. Go ahead and talk a little bit about that, Steve.
Yeah. I think that's probably the hardest part about being a reseller is keeping on track. And it's one of my resolutions for this year is to make sure I keep myself on track even more and be more organized. But from my previous corporate job, a lot of my stuff was I was independently doing work as it is. So I had kind of that structure in place. But yeah, for myself, it's really, I have my schedule built around not only my business, but also with my son as well. So whether it is dropping him to and from off at school or picking him up, or now he's doing online learning, I build all my schedule around that, whether I have to time block sourcing, which would be now in the evening since he's doing online school, or on weekends, doing times that when I'll be doing shipping, times I'll be doing cleaning or testing inventory, taking pictures. Really, what I found that works best for me is doing mass time blocks when it comes to certain projects. So if I'm going to take pictures, I'm going to do that for 2 hours at a time, and then hopefully I have enough inventory at that point to go ahead and list for maybe like 3 or 4 days based on how many pictures that I took.
Yeah. So what's your goal of how many items you try to list per day or per week? And talk a little bit about how your sales have been this year. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. For items per week, or I look at per day, I try to list every day. I'm probably around 10 to 15 items a day right now. Sometimes it'll be 20, 25, depending on like what I have and how much time I have at that point. What I'm really trying to focus more on is listing profit per day when it comes to it. So if I know I don't have that much time, I try to get at least like $200 to $250 of potential profit that I'm going to be listing there. So if I have like 3 items and that hits it, then I'm like, okay, good. I hit that threshold for the day. But ideally I'm listing at least 10 to 15 items and also hitting that threshold on there.
Okay, cool. Now, can you talk a little bit about some of your items that are your bread and butter items? Because if people haven't got a chance to check out your channel, me and you sell similar items. I was watching some of your videos, and I was seeing some of the DVDs and video games and some of the items that you sell. And a lot of times either people walk by it because they don't know it's not worth money, or maybe they see it and it's like, well, I don't know if it's worth my time to buy an item for $1 and sell it for 15, 20 bucks. But to me, it all kind of adds up. So you talk a little bit about some of your bread and butter items that you resell and what you look out for if you're at a thrift store or a pawn shop or a yard sale where you kind of gravitate towards it. You're like, hey, let's go check this out.
Yeah. My bread and butter, I would say, are DVDs and video games. Definitely. Also include video game consoles in there as well. DVDs have been great for me because, as you know, and probably everyone else on here knows, it's really competitive. whether you're at thrift stores or you're at or you're on like looking on OfferUp or Facebook Marketplace or wherever, that's what people gravitate because they know like certain titles that they could go make money on. So I initially started when I was like hitting the thrifts for fun, just doing video games. That's all I did. And I would go in there and be like, oh, this isn't as easy as people make it look like in their videos. I'm only finding like 1 or 2 games and they're not that profitable. And I was scanning everything. And so after a while, I eventually ran it across, like, I think I found like a DVD set that was new there and I just scanned it. I'm like, wow, this thing goes for a lot of money. So I never thought that DVDs were a potential gold mine there. And now I'm selling way more DVDs than video games when it comes to it. I probably sell at least 2 to 1 DVDs to games on most days.
Yeah, I'm the same way, man. If I when I go out here and I'm looking for video games, if I can get them for the right price, I will. But sometimes it's like I'm at a thrift store and I scan the barcode and the game says it sells on eBay for $10, and the thrift store is asking $3 for it.
Yep.
So, and I'm like, by the time I take out my eBay fees, PayPal fees, cost of goods, how much of that profit margin am I making for an item that I paid $3 for and sold it for 10? But then meanwhile, right next to it, you can get DVDs brand new sealed in the shrink wrap for 50 cents. Yep. And you're like, okay, well, if I could turn 50 cents into $10 versus a video game that I paid $3 and sold for 10, which one are you going to sell? Because one of them costs 6 times as much as the other one, and they're going to sell for the same price. And so it's kind of like, okay, you can get this one brand new in a shrink wrap for 50 cents, or you can get a used one that may be scratched up, may be dinged up, that you may have more competition, and you may get a return on, and you're paying 5-6 times as much for the same price for the same amount of money. So yeah, man, if you guys don't know, I mean, if you're already in the section, just start scanning some barcodes. If I'm out somewhere and I see an item like DVDs brand new in a shrink wrap or remotes, if I see remotes for like 50 cents, I'm at the thrift store, I just grab them and put them in the cart and look them up later. Because I know at a bare minimum, this is going to sell for $10-15. So it's almost like free money, you know. But for sure, if you guys don't know, talk a little bit about when I go up there, because one of your videos that I watched, you had like a little diagram or a blueprint, right? So on his video, if you guys didn't get a chance to watch it, you should check it out. He had like a whole bookshelf, right? And he had like DVDs, VHS tapes, Blu-rays, video games, and he had them all like color coded and blocked off different sections. So talk a little bit about that in case people don't know, because I feel like sometimes if someone says, well, I only sell shoes, or I only sell hats, or only sell clothing, you might be walking right by a ton of profit with selling media and video games and not even know it. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So my top videos are from how to sell DVD series that I put out there. And the one you're talking about is reading the racks. Yeah. So I, excuse me, I gotta get a little water here. So in that video, I took a picture of the thrift rack and put a little diagram of I color coded where they're normally putting items on the rack. So there may be video games, DVD sets, Blu-rays, and so forth. So I kind of went through my priorities. So if you had a short amount of time, this is what I would look at on the rack. I'd also talked about understanding your thrift stores tags. A lot of times they may have like some type of date on there or color code on there as well. So understanding when they're putting out new inventory on the racks as well. So you're able to go in there and snag the latest stuff, because if there is competition out there, they're going to be there on day one when it comes out. One of the biggest misconceptions when I talk to a lot of people are like, they wait for dollar day when it comes to stuff. And I rarely buy anything, even like at Goodwill's, when they're at 50% off, because if they're 50% off, it means I missed that for 6 weeks if it was worth it, especially when it comes to games and media. If it was worth if it was worth it for me when it was like $2 or $3, it would have been gone way before it hit $1 at the store. So definitely check out that video, reading the recs, my whole series in general, I go through just the little tricks that I have. I think I have like 6 videos or something out there on there that really walks you through how to get into DVDs, what categories to look at, just little tricks to help you make some money that you may be passing up on every day.
Yeah, especially guys, if you guys don't know, you can get box sets. Like, let's say it's a TV show. Let's say it's a TV show. It could be like Lost TV show or whatever, or it's Crime Scene CSI or something, right? So if you guys look for some of these box sets, if you can get them sealed, that's great. But even if some of them are used, scan the barcodes on these box sets because they're going to ship media mail. So media mail shipping is like $2.80 for everything under £1. So if you guys see those box sets of TV shows or episodes, grab them. And if you see DVDs that are like new in the shrink wrap, I'll always grab them, because the thing is, the ones that are odd and weird that you've never heard of, that means nobody else on eBay has them. So if nobody else has them and you have no competition, you can ask for a premium for those items because you have zero competition. And if the item is brand new sealed, it's not like cookies or, you know, some cupcakes. It's not going to like expire and go bad. And on top of that, you're paying zero insertion fees. So if you sell Blu-rays, DVDs, video games, VHS tapes, you're paying zero insertion fees. So what happens is at the end of the 30 days, your item doesn't sell, it relists, you're paying zero insertion fees. So it's not like you're paying 10 cents or 25 cents a month for insertion fees. So I'm telling you guys, if you guys get a chance, if you guys watch my videos, I talk about the same stuff Steve does. As far as selling DVDs and Blu-rays and video games, we're selling the same type of merchandise, and it just so happens that you those are now in the select categories and you pay zero insertion fees. Anyways, I'm gonna catch the chat real quick. We got Cajun Reseller here in the house. Cajun Roots Reseller. He says, I sub to you, Steve. He says, nice to meet you and hear more about your ways of sourcing. We got Art Vandelay here. Hey, Art Vandelay, thanks for coming by and hanging out with me. I saw you on Nurse Flipper's live yesterday. I said hi to you. We got my man, Bearded Thrift Machine, here in the house hanging out with us. And Art Vandelay is here. So if you guys want to ask questions, from what I gather, it's the first time I've met Steve, but it says on his channel he's got 20 years of experience in reselling. That's what it said. Is that correct? Yeah.
I started around, I think it was 2000. It was one of the early days of eBay, just flipping sport cards.
And last year in 2020, he made around 80,000 in sales and gross sales, mainly selling media items. Like, and the thing is, he also talks about audiobooks. So if you guys don't know about audiobooks, people walk right past audiobooks because they think nobody wants them and they think they're worthless. And man, if you can pick them up for audio, if you can pick up the tapes or CDs and you can get them new, sealed in the plastic, because you got to think these audiobooks, they're maybe 10, 20 years old. They don't make them anymore. So if you have them, it's like, it could be a gold mine for you if you guys pick up audiobooks. You want to talk a little bit about that, Steve? Because I actually sell audiobooks and other people were like, I'm not fooling with that, but go ahead.
Oh yeah. Audiobooks, there's money in there. I think I sold just recently like a Harry Potter sealed one. It was just one of the books for like $45. And there's a lot of money and it comes, and there's so many different ones. There's like different like self-help. There's just a lot of fiction, nonfiction that I found out there. I just scan them. Like if I see any of them that I see sealed, I will scan right away if I haven't like seen that author before. And even if they're not and it looks interesting, I'll check the back and it'll say like, if it says like 1995 was like the retail price at the time was out there, I'm like, usually those ones aren't going to be that good. Those are the like some mass ones that, they just weren't really pricing high. But like you see some that are saying like $59.95 on it originally. Check those out. Like a lot of times you're going to find like $25 to $35 audiobooks out there. And a lot of times they're like, I've rarely found an audiobook set that is in real bad condition disc wise. People like for some reason, I think they people that buy audiobooks keep those in better shape. The outer box may be beat up just because they're transported in and out of their car, but I rarely find bad discs when it comes to those as well. So condition is usually pretty nice when it comes to those. You don't have to worry about cleaning them or passing on them for bad discs.
Yeah, I personally like selling audiobooks new in the shrink wrap, but like
Mhm.
recently, for example, I sold this Lord of the Rings audiobook and I paid $1 for
Mhm.
it at a yard sale. And within, I don't know, a week or so, it sold for $20. So,
Yep,
you know, you
I had
spend
the same
$1
one.
to make 20. So we were talking about a 20X on your money. And a lot of
Yep.
times you got to think there's a lot of people pass on these audiobooks because either they don't want to fool with them or they
Mhm.
don't think there's a lot of money in them, but you have a lot less competition for something like an audiobook than you would a video game. So
Yep.
let's say me and Steve are both at the thrift store, right? And I buy a video game for $1. He buys an audiobook for $1, right? So then let's say they sell for the same price. Well, there might be 200 people on eBay selling that same video game, right? And the audiobook, there may only be 2 people on eBay that has an audiobook. So it's like, you know, the
Mhm.
video game may sell quicker, but it may not because I'm competing with 200 other people on the same platform.
Mhm.
Where Steve picked up this audiobook for $1 and maybe sold it for $20, and it may have set for a little bit, but it did sell, and he probably got full asking price because
Yep.
nobody else on the platform had it. So
Yep.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about bundling items because I saw
Mhm.
your video and you were bundling TV series, DVDs, video games. Because some people think, well, this particular video game is only worth $8 or $10, so
Mhm.
I'm not going to fool with it. But you think, well, I'm going to go home and bundle them together and then sell them at a lot. And then maybe, like, for example, you had some Call of Duty video games. You're like,
Yep.
I paid $1 a piece for them, and I put them in a big bundle and sold them together. So talk a little bit
Yep.
about how what your strategy is, because you can find items that you pick up for $1 that may not be worth anything, but when you bundle them in a lot, that you can still sell them and get a higher profit margin. So can you talk a little bit about that, Steve?
Yeah, great point there. Yeah, like, you'll be in. I'll be in the stores. Just everyone's gonna be in the stores. You'll scan it, and you're paying like $1 or $2 for for a game, and it'll be like $8 free shipping that it's going for. But you may find like 4 in that same series that's there. And what I'll do is I'll make sure I've researched all those games on there as well, see if anyone's a home run or not. But most likely you can bundle all those together and then get your ASP higher. And then especially if it's media, it's real cheap for shipping on there. If you're still under £1, it's $2.80. But even if you go over, it's like $3.30 or
333 or
whatever.
something. Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
it's real. It's
but
insane how low the shipping costs are for media mail. So for series especially, um, like I'll bundle like 2 or 3 seasons of The Office. I'll get them for like $1. Like those are the ones I'll grab. Almost every series I'll grab on Dollar Day if I let it sit there. If they price it like $5 and it made it to Dollar Day, then I'll buy them for $1. I just keep them on a shelf and wait until I get multiples of them. And those ones I'll then bundle up and like put like 3 seasons together. The Office I bought for like $3 total for like $30 free shipping, and then shipping on there's like $4, $3.50 to $4 when it comes to it, and it goes pretty well. It's pretty much all series you could do that. Video games, I do the same thing. Like you mentioned, Call of Duty. I was there with like when games were coming out that day when I bought those Call of Duty ones with probably about 4 other resellers that I know there, and they're watching stuff, they're grabbing certain stuff off the shelves. They're like, "Why are you buying those?" I'm like, "Just watch me. I'm going to bundle these together, and I'm going to sell it for like $35 to $40." And I did within like a week of putting them up there, and I paid $5 for them. It's just getting your ASP up higher, being able to manipulate your margins based on bundling and keeping that shipping cost lower. So I knew with that I could, if I needed to, I could put in a padded flat rate envelope for video games, and it would be $750 or $795 or whatever it is now after it's gone up. So I could minimize my cost of shipping on there. So instead of paying $3 shipping for each one, which would have been $15, I'm paying $8. And then you're making your margin in there as well. So it's just different ways to hack your ASP growing, and also more margin for yourself.
Right. Yeah, if you guys didn't get a chance to check out Steve's channel, if you guys don't know, he has weekends where he makes $1,000, $1,200 in sales over the not for the whole week, just over the weekend. So if you guys get a chance, you should check out Steve's channel. I'm a subscriber to your channel, Steve. We got a question here from Cajun Roots Reseller. He says, "Question, Steve, do you only sell on eBay or do you also sell on Amazon?"
This past year has been hard focused on eBay. I have a few items listed on Amazon. I'll sell here and there. And I've actually put a box to the side for stuff to go into FBA. That's a big goal for me this year. I'll be doing probably, I want to do at least one FBA shipment a month, just to start growing Amazon, testing that out, and getting unlocked in certain categories on there as well.
Yeah, okay. We have another question from Cajun Roots. He says, hey, Steve, what is the best flip for audiobooks that we should be looking for? I've seen many other resellers selling them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said before, check anything new. If you could find series, like like here in Phoenix, we have Deseret Industries, which is, I believe, like a Mormon thrift or Latter-day Saints thrift store. So there's a lot of times there's like religious DVDs and CDs and audiobooks there. And I've done really well with some more of like Christian-based audiobooks when it's come to it. And those ones I'll find for like $2 and sell for 20. And a lot of times I'll find maybe one listing or no listings on eBay when it comes to them. And I'll just take a chance just because the margin is so big potentially. I'll check Amazon and see where they're pricing it. And I'll put on eBay. And a lot of times I was surprised. Like one time I found like 5 of this random series. I put them on there. There were very few sales on it, but no one was listed on it. Or maybe 1 or 2 listed on it, bundle them up, and like it sold. I think it was like the tennis shoe. It was something like tennis shoe series or something like that, and it sold for like $75 or $90 for like 5 of them together. So like look for different series that you could bundle together. Anything new. Harry Potter does well for me. You'll find those. If they're pricing it right, you could bundle like 3 of them together and sell them for like $45 to $50. So it's just really which ones are there. It's taking advantage of what's on the shelf as you're there. It's a lot of scanning and just research while you're there.
Yeah, a lot of times I'll just roll the dice. If I see them there and they're new sealed in the plastic and I can get them for 50 cents, $1, $1.50, because there may be a whole pile of them. You can sit there and scan barcodes, or you can just put them in the cart. If I can get it for $1 and I know in the back of my mind I'm going to sell it for at least 10, 15, $20 and it's new sealed and I know that they're not making that model anymore, or it's something weird or off-ball thing that you've never heard of, grab it. Because like Steve said, he was the only person that had it listed on eBay. So now he could ask a premium. So let's say there's 10 other people that have it listed. Maybe it may only sell for $10, right? But you're the only person that has it listed. Now maybe you can list yours for 20, 25, 30 for the same item, because you have no other competition. And if someone wants to buy that item, they have to come to you to get it. And you have it new sealed in the shrink wrap. They're not making it anymore. It may have been, I've seen audiobooks that were produced in 1995, 1998. They're not making them in 2021. So, you kind of have the upper hand on your competition, because there literally is no competition, or there's maybe one other person that has it. So Cajun Reseller Root says, thank you, Steve. I'm looking forward to catching up on your channel's content. I'll give you a shout out in the morning on my show.
Awesome.
He says, I go live Monday through Friday. He says, I'll do the same thing. I'll try to do anything I can to flip for a profit. Yeah. Well, the thing is, guys, you got to understand is that the 3 things that resellers have issues with is time, money, and space, right? So you got to figure out how long does it take you to list an item. With a lot of these media items like CDs, DVDs, audiobooks, Blu-rays, video games, I can just scan the barcode and I can crank out 50 of them or 100 of them a day. It doesn't take me that long to list them. And they're not big, bulky. It's not like a big stuffed animal that takes up a ton of space. So I can literally stack them up in the shed and they don't take up a lot of space. And, they're cost effective. Like, for example, I just ordered, I think I ordered 400 CDs recently that are new in the shrink wrap for I think it was like $180 or something. So my buy cost was like 40 cents a piece. So even if I only sell them for $10 a piece times 400, now I'm turning my buy cost, which was $180, into $4,000 worth of merchandise. And it's shipped right to my door, right? So you're saving time going to different thrift stores. It shows up right at your door. It doesn't cost a ton of money. It doesn't take up a lot of space. And the shipping cost is, media mail is $2.80, So So anyways, do you have any more tips or tricks that you could give somebody, Steve, because you're a full-time reseller now? What would be your top 3 or 4 tips that you could give somebody who wants to be a full-time reseller? Like, I know one of them is probably going to be time management, but go ahead and go.
Yep.
I'll put you on full screen.
Yeah, time management is always up there. I think that's probably the number one issue that most resellers have, is that just because, you could get caught going down the rabbit hole on something, whether it's someone has a return, or you're testing items, or you're just like, oh, I'm going to watch a YouTube video at this time instead of packing up my items. I would say if you're going full time, set some targets for yourself when it comes to what you want your business to be, because based on that, you're going to be able to work backwards on like what type of investment and time that you're going to need to put into it. I would also then look at what categories interest you if you haven't already been buying and learning about them at this time. Pick, I would say, up to 3 categories that you want to go into, whether it's video games, DVDs, men's clothing, women's clothing, shoes, electronics, right? Pick certain categories that you really want to go into and investigate those. And just really, I'd go in the store and just have your eBay app out there and just start scanning, whether it's the barcodes or just looking up tags. You're going into clothing, that type of stuff. It's really about, at the beginning, educating on what the market is like out there. And then also I would learn about sell-through rate on there, because a big mistake that a lot of people make will be going, oh, this one I could sell for like $50, but it may sell once a quarter and there's like 20 of them listed. And there's someone lowballing it at like $19 when it comes to it. So I would really learn about like sell-through rate and just general pricing strategies when it comes to that as well, because you could really get caught upside down or just have like a lot of dead inventory sitting there while you're like just starting and learning. But I made a ton of mistakes when it came to buying when I first started, and had stuff that I purged over time. But everyone does it, but that'd be a watch out when you're going into it. So that's why, at least when you're a beginner, you can make those mistakes on like dollar items, but just be careful when you're looking at like higher dollar items to really understand sell-through rates when it comes to it.
Okay, Steve. I wanted to ask you, because I watched your video recently and you talked about some of your 3 goals that you have this year for 2021. Do you want to talk a little bit about what your plans are for this year? Because I watch your channel and I see your channel and I'm like, man, this guy's going to blow up. He doesn't know it yet, but his channel is going to blow up. And I think sometime this year you're going to hit 1,000 subscribers. I think we're going to make that happen.
I hope so. One of my goals that I had 3 categories for goals. One of them is YouTube on there, and I want to hit 1,000 subscribers by July 1st. So I think that's a reasonable goal for myself to get out there, just based on growth and just putting a little extra effort into it as well. Maybe another extra video a week. So as part of that, to get to that, I put a goal of at least 10 videos a month, which would be about 2 to 3 a week. When it comes to it, try out live streaming, which we're doing here as well. I really want to see how that works. This is fun and awesome. And then just get to that goal. And then as I get to July 1st, and I'll reevaluate where the channel is and what I want to do for growth going forward. Another fork of goals that I have is for reselling, which I should primarily be focused on, which I am. As I said, I was near 80,000 last year. My goal is for eBay to hit 100,000, and then to get at least 1 FBA shipment into Amazon a month, and then also to get a distribution agreement with. It's probably gonna be with a media company that I've been working with to help with ungating media on Amazon, because that's primarily what I want to be throwing in there. Video games, I could get most of my stuff in there except for Nintendo, which I have to get worked on for ungating, but DVDs are locked. So that's the one that I need to get unlocked there to really make that Amazon worthwhile for me.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Now, Steve, I'm kind of an eBay nerd, so but go ahead and talk to me a little bit about DVDs and stuff, DVDs, Blu-rays, and TV show series, because sometimes I talk about it and people are just like, yeah, right, Jeff. And I even show you guys. I'm like, look, here it is right here in my hand in my what sold video. I'm holding it up to the camera. I showed you how much I paid for it and what it sold for. Can you give me any other tips or tricks? If I'm out here looking for media, I'm out here and I'm looking at some DVDs, Blu-rays, VHS tapes sealed in the shrink wrap, grab them. They don't make VHS tapes anymore. So if you see one sealed for a quarter or 50 cents or 75 cents, put it in the cart. You don't even need to scan it. Just grab it and put it in the cart. It's going to sell. So talk a little bit about some of these media items, because, Steve's living proof. He made $80,000 last year selling video games, mainly video game systems, DVDs, Blu-rays, audiobooks. Talk a little bit about media, because when I talk about it, people think I'm just kind of like, talking just because I like to hear myself talk. Go ahead, Steve. Tell them about it.
Yeah, I think people roll your eyes at you, and they do at me, because they're like, why would people buy DVDs? There's Netflix. And what they don't realize is there are a lot of movies and TV shows that aren't on any streaming service, because those streaming services haven't paid for those rights, or they're not on basic cable because channels haven't paid for the rights for them. But there are a lot of people out there that love them and are the nostalgia factor of wanting to watch them as well. So like I had one, I think it was on one of my videos, where I got a person that sent me a comment trying to get me to go lower on a DVD set and make me feel bad about my price, because she was nostalgic about it and gave me this whole sob story. But it was, I can't remember, it was like a 1980s or late 70s TV show, which I had 4 of them that I found sealed, and I sold it for $200.
Right.
There's like crazy sets like that you can find out there. If you remember in the early 2000s, The Pretender, that TV show was on NBC for, I think, 4 seasons. And I think they put out like a movie or 2 movies as well, like TV movies. That one I sold. I found 4 of them sealed locally on, I think, Facebook Marketplace for $25, and I sold them for $250. But it's because people can't find them anywhere. So look for any type of set that you see out there. Goes really well. Documentary series like the PBS ones, a lot of those are really good. I could sell a lot of those for like 25 to 40. I just recently found one from PBS. It was just a single DVD, but it was like one of the documentary, I think it's like 1900s is what it's called. I bought it for $1 just this past week, and comps on eBay and Amazon are like $90. So people are passing on gold that's out there just because there's a lot of stuff that people can't find on any of the streaming services or TV stations. So they're coming to eBay and Amazon to look for those.
Right. That's what I talk about all the time, guys, is that stuff that they don't make anymore, that the people can't find, and they can't get it on Netflix or Hulu or what is it, Disney Plus, that they want to find it. Also, another thing is, guys, there's people that collect, believe it or not, there's people that collect DVDs and VHS tapes and stuff. Me or you, just like how people collect action figures or people collect video games, there's people that collect DVDs. I sold a DVD last year and I paid like, I don't know, it was 50 cents or $1 for it, and it sold for $100. But guess what? I was like the only person on eBay that had it. It was brand new in the shrink wrap. And I looked up sold comps, and it was selling for $100. Some guy in Indiana bought it for $100, and I was like Homer Simpson. I was like, woohoo! It sold. Made turned $1 into $100, and in 2 hours. So I was super excited about it. And the thing is, if you're not out looking for this stuff, you might be walking right past it and not even know it. It's kind of like how people have a thing for, limited edition shoes or vintage T-shirts or something, and those things sell like crazy. There's a lot of media items that fly off the shelves because they don't make them anymore. And especially if you can find them sealed. Like I said, there are collectors that collect media items, and you can. They're super happy too. I get comments all the time on my eBay store saying, "Hey, man, this was brand new, sealed in the shrink wrap. I appreciate your business." Something like that. Like they're really happy about it.
Yeah, I'm sure you've come across a lot of collectors on there, like whether it's DVDs or CDs as well. Like I'll
Yeah.
put up, I look, especially if you find like classic rock
Yeah.
CDs, especially if you find them sealed. Like I've just recently found a few like Rolling Stone ones that were like
Yeah.
sealed, that people turned in. I got them for 99 cents. But like people ask you like, oh, is it this print? They'll really be, some of them will be condition sensitive because like they'll say like, oh, I just want it mint. I'm not even going to listen to it. I'm just putting it on my shelf. Like that's what
Yeah.
the message that I'll get. And same thing with DVDs. Like you'll get some people that just, if you go and like look up like DVD rooms on eBay, people have media rooms where they make it in their house and all they're doing is collecting them. And rarely are they watching what they're collecting. It's just more to have the collection.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. I had a guy email me the other day and I had this item and I had it sealed in the shrink wrap and he's like, can you take a picture of the edge? I want to see if it's factory sealed. I'm like, bro, I took a picture front and back. It can't be any more new than what it is. It's new in the shrink wrap. I took a picture front and back of the item. It's new. I'm like, do you want to buy it or not? Because I'm the only person that has it and it's not going to be here next week. You know, I don't be rude, but I'm just like, here, I took a picture front and back of the item. Here it is. This is the best I can do. I'm not going to cover every little angle of an item I picked up at the pawn shop for 50 cents. So anyway, Steve, I'm getting ready to hit up this. There's a bin store right down the street that just opened, and on Wednesday everything is $1 there. So I'm getting ready to hit up this bin store because I've never been there before. They stayed open till 6. So if I find anything good, I'll film it. But anyways, talk about some of your sourcing techniques and strategies because in the wintertime, it's more difficult for people to go sourcing at yard sales in the wintertime. So talk a little bit about some of your sourcing techniques and strategies because I know you buy stuff locally like on Craigslist and OfferUp. You do Facebook Marketplace. Talk a little bit about some of your sourcing techniques and strategies that you do besides just yard sales. Go ahead.
Yeah, my primary two sources, well, my number one source is thrift stores. Just because you know the store is always there. When it comes to yard sales, you don't know who's going to have a sale that weekend, where it's going to be, where you're going to have to drive to. Like for thrift stores, I've come up with a route, or multiple routes actually. And then I know timing of when I should be there, when I'm able to go there during the week of when they're putting out new items. That's probably my number one tip is know when they're putting out new items, for the category that you're in. Certain stores may put out everything at one time. Some they may do different sections throughout the day. Just make sure you're paying attention if you're there. Oh, they're putting a rack out. Go there again, a day or two later, see if they're putting the rack out at the same time. And then at least you kind of are aware of like around what time you should be there to at least find the best stuff. Because the best pickers are going to be there when that rack is coming out. Especially for, then my next source would be local places right now, especially with COVID and everything. When that started and everything here in Arizona shut down, all our Goodwill shut down for, I don't know, like 3 or 4 weeks. I just was scouring OfferUp, Facebook Marketplace. Those were the two primary ones. Nextdoor is really good because it's like your local neighborhood, and you can find some really good deals there because a lot of times it's just people just getting rid of stuff. Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, there's a lot of people that are flipping stuff on there, but you can find some really good deals as well, but there's a lot of competition. Nextdoor doesn't seem as much competition, at least here in Phoenix for me, that I could find some really good deals here and there, especially when it comes to like electronics. Like I find like really good Apple products people are putting on Nextdoor for some reason, but that's where I found a lot of really good like sealed DVD sets that people were doing, especially during the pandemic. People were just like purging. They're doing the Marie Kondo or whatever, the purging your house. They're watching that on Netflix and cleaning up their house. So I would definitely look for media on there because a lot of people are always looking for video games on those platforms, but media may be sitting there for a couple weeks with no one even contacting them, and you could usually get a really killer deal.
Yeah, I've looked on places like OfferUp, and I've had some lady that she had like 200 DVDs that were sealed in a shrink wrap, and we ended up negotiating, and I got them for like 50 cents a piece. And so if you guys look, because there's not a lot of people that's because you're only competing with people in your area. So I would definitely go by and check out like Craigslist, OfferUp, some of the local things. But another thing that Steve didn't mention is if you guys get a chance, check out pawn shops. I go to a lot of pawn shops in my area, and there's probably 3 or 4 of them in my area where all the old video games, Nintendo Wii, PS3, Xbox 360, PS2 games, they'll sell them to you for $1 just to clear space off their shelves. And you can pick up DVDs new in the shrink wrap for 50 cents all day long. And another thing is a lot of these pawn shops, they're willing to negotiate on the price. So sometimes they may have an item that's been sitting there for 3 months, 6 months. They just want to move it. You know, I can't go into Walmart and say, hey, you guys have this marked at $10.99. Will you take $5 for it? They're going to be like, no, you know, we can't. You know, we're going to take whatever the price tag is. But if you go to some of these pawn shops, they're more lenient as far as negotiating. And a lot of times they have very little money into the items as well. So, you know, maybe somebody pawned it or somebody, sold it there. They just needed money to pay the light bill or whatever. So you can negotiate and haggle on the prices at some of these pawn shops. I hit them pretty regularly. So
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm in Tampa, so I don't know about in your area in Phoenix, but you can go there, and a lot of people don't. Nobody thinks to look for items to flip and resell at pawn shops, but they're there. And sometimes pawn shops have clearance sections, and they also have bargain bins. I went there to a pawn shop a couple of months ago. I just walked in and was looking around. They had a whole bin of video games for 50 cents a piece. It was like like manager special video games 50 cents, and I was like a kid in a candy store stacking them on the counter, you know. So if you guys just walk in there and look around, you never know what you'll find because there's not a lot. Most of the people are going to thrift stores and yard sales. They're not at pawn shops. So Steve, tell people about your Resale Dojo. Tell them about your YouTube channel, where they can come find you at. Tell them a little bit of information about you and your YouTube channel. I'll put you back on full screen.
Yeah. You can find me at Resale Dojo on YouTube, also on Instagram. I post videos 2 to 3 times a week, usually what sold, bolo videos, what I found. I have a DVD series on there as well, which if you really want to get into, I highly recommend you to check it out. It's my most popular videos are around that series. I will be putting out more stuff like that going in the future. That's what I want to do is a lot of more educational items on there as well. So I'll be getting into, especially if you're beginners, how to start out on eBay, how to price, since my corporate background was a lot in strategic pricing. I'm going to be really getting into there, just like pricing strategies to show you where to be putting your products in your store, depending on how you want your store to move. And then you can also check me out on Instagram. I post just a lot, mainly it's pictures telling you to go watch my YouTube videos, bolo items on there as well, what's sold, just anything that I'll find that's interesting that like hopefully brings you guys value and that you could go and find those out in the market for yourself.
Okay, Steve, give me your final thoughts, bro. We've had you on the show for about 50 minutes, so give me your final thoughts in closing. I think you should do more live streams on your channel, maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks. Just hang out. You can connect with your viewers. They can pick your brain, ask you questions. So check into that. But if someone wants to become a full-time reseller, give me your final thoughts on things that they should do to start trending in that direction.
Yeah, I would get yourself I would set a little bit of money aside and start building up your store before you go into full time. I would get at least, if I was doing it full time, I would say, depending on what your turn rate is, $12,000 to $15,000 of inventory. I would get that on hand just so you're going to be able to start churning cash pretty quickly once you go full time. And just set goals when it comes to like think about what categories you want to be in and how you want to really attack it, and just go ahead and do it. That's the main thing when it comes to it. You gotta realize you're running a solo business, unless you're doing it with like a family member or a friend or something like that, and you're only accountable to yourself. If you're married and you're doing it full time and you're the only one doing it, you're responsible then for them as well. So it's a big responsibility if you want to jump into it, but just make sure you set the goals and targets and just go ahead and do it. It's easily attainable if you just put in the work. It's all it is. Like reselling is just learning a market and taking advantage of that market where you can. Like for me, I went into media because video games was so diluted by all my competition grabbing inventory. So just understand like what works best in your market. It may not be DVDs, may not be video games. Maybe you got like cowboy boots coming out of your butt in your region. Focus on that and take advantage of that market, and just be willing to pivot when you need to.
Yeah, for sure, guys. And one of the things that I find most challenging in reselling is just continuously restocking your shelves of inventory, because you might sell through, you might have a big weekend and make $300-400 in a weekend, but then you look around and you're like, okay, now fourth quarter is over, my store shelves are getting kind of empty, and I've got to continuously restock my shelves and be relisting items because you have to cover all the items that you just sold. Because if they pick and choose all the good stuff and you just got junk and you can't sell the stuff that's been sitting there, you got to continuously be sourcing and continuously be listing. So that's my thing that I've been kind of like, okay, great, I made all these sales, I got all the packages shipped out, but now I have to do it again. Now I have to go start over, back to the drawing board, get all new merchandise, and go out and find it. But that could be part of the fun. So anyway, Steve, it was great to hang out with you today, man. I appreciate talking to you, and I have your links for Instagram and YouTube in the description.
Awesome.
So if you guys get a chance, go check Steve out, and I'll see you again next time. Right? See you later, buddy.